let people know what might happen at the board. Now, if you notice 770 acre feet, and everybody looked at that and thought, I can live with 770, and then you granted 850, that might be a problem. But if you notice 770, and the applicant is here, and you grant less than 770, I don't see that anybody can claim that their rights have been prejudiced by that notice.
Okay, fair enough. I want to make sure. Was that?
I don't think that was a question. Is that what you were asking?
I was just pointing out that the notice was inaccurate.
Okay, that's what I was going to correct.
That's all I was saying.
When the application for permit was first sent to Rick, Beck and our secretary, 720 acre feet was put in instead of 770. Caught by Rick, the math was wrong on our part. We resubmitted and corrected it. That might have been the information he got. Where it said 720 acre feet, it should have said 770. It said 720.
I think everybody thought it was 770.
Okay, well, I thought that was his misunderstanding
Okay, I
about what I read earlier.
Okay, I had thought too, it did say up to, so that we're not restricted to, it has to be either 770 or nothing less. I know it can't be more.
Okay. The whole reason I proposed this was, first off, Wimberley Water is a nonprofit. They're there to benefit the community. You know, they've had a historic loss rate of about 11.2%, pretty good. I take into account what they say about since 2002, actually, they haven't busted their permit. But they've gotten very close twice. They got, in 2006, they got to 99.7% of their total allowed, 695. Then they got to 95%, 95.6 in 2003. It's just a matter of time before they do bust it. They busted a big way. If you look, and Jack, thank you for this. I checked the numbers. This is very helpful. I appreciate you doing this for us because it really helps me see the ups and downs. But if you look at this paper and you go back to 2002 through 2010, you will notice a 145 acre feet swing from some years to the others. It is the lowest they pumped and the highest they pumped. Well, do y'all know what our fines are? Our fines are $5 per 1,000 over. That means that we're really, when 145 acre feet over, we would fine them $236,000 and some change. All I want to do is be sure that one entity in Hays County is not causing misery for another entity in Hays County that serves to help people. What I did was, I think 770 personally is a bit high. I took all their numbers here, added up their swings up and down. I mean, from 2003 to 2004, they lost 101 acre feet. 2004 to 2005, they gained 89 acre feet. It's up and down, it's all over the place. So sooner or later it's coming. Now, also be aware that they've added, since 2002, they've added 119 meters. I agree that the growth rate is just about 1%. But there is a growth rate, and we're one, whatever. I don't care about growth one way or the other. What I do care about is someone that's been good stewards of the water is protected. They're not going to get in some silly bureaucratic hassle because they busted their permit by 20 acre feet. Now what I did was, I took all the numbers, threw out the highest, threw out the lowest, right? Good math. I found an average swing of 62 acre feet per year. And if you take their highest use they've ever had of 693 acre feet in 2006, add the 62, that gives you 755 acre feet. I think that's probably about what I'd like to make a motion. I think we're pretty good there, and I think that protects everybody, but we don't get just crazy with the permit.
Anybody else like to speak?
Yes. Now, the information that I had was that during the past 3 years, there wasn't as much building as you are planning for in 1 year and next year. And I just disagree with you that there is going to be an increase in building in the area. You know, for one thing, of course, I don't think that the Planning and Development Committee is going to approve an Htgcd or a 4-story hotel. I believe that our limit is what? 3 stories, 2 stories?
I'm sorry?
Our limit on hotels is 2 stories or 3?
It's 3 stories, I think.
3 stories, right. So, and we aren't exactly asking for an HED, so. So anyway, I would not approve that much of an increase, and I would rather go in a one-year permit. I do think that, we're very proud of the water company, you are good stewards, but, I would not vote for this.
My question is to the lawyer, if, let's just say we were to approve 740 over 3 years, could they come, even if you have a 3-year permit, could they come back 2 years from now and ask to have that permit increased?
Oh, absolutely. They can file an amendment application at any time.
Okay. Now, if, the thing I like about giving a permit, a longer term permit, is what Mayor Haley said, that they're in charge of it. If we don't, if there's no water left in the water budget, and a new developer comes in, what do we do then? As in,
That is the $64 million question.
I just see it as if they have that water and they haven't used it, they don't have to give it back. But it's already spoken for. They have spoken for this water.
Under the current law, section 361132 of the Water Code states that you shall issue permits if you have received administratively complete applications up to the point that the aggregate total of all permits equals the managed available groundwater number.
Right.
Now, the legislature is likely to consider making big changes to that. I don't know if any of those bills are going to pass. I'll let you know in June what happens. But as things stand right now, you're required to issue permits up to that point. The way I read that means that you stop at that point. Now, you have options. You can either stop issuing new permits and stop issuing any new increases, in which case new applicants, landowners that don't have wells can be very unhappy. Or you can say we're going to continue to issue permits, but we're going to require all existing permittees to reduce, on a proportional basis hopefully, to make room for the new permittee, which makes all of those existing permittees very unhappy. So now that we're facing a limit on what can be pumped, you're going to make somebody unhappy, and it's your unlucky, job. You have to decide who you want to make unhappy.
Right. Okay.
Now, I can tell you, and if you want to go into executive session to talk about potential litigation, you can. But I can tell you, and I've been very public about this in the past, if you're talking about takings litigation, constitutionally protected property rights, you have two classes of people out there. Those that have invested money as a way to show that they are backing up their expectations for what they intend to do with that property, and those that have not invested money. The courts routinely strongly protect those with investment-backed expectations, and don't protect at all those without.
Right.
So the people that have already invested in wells, pipes, treatment systems, distribution systems, much more likely to have a good takings claim against the district than those that don't.
Okay. All right. So they're asking in their permit for so much each year, 3%, or whatever it comes out to. We could, as a board, give less than that, and instead of going with what they wanted at 3, 3, and 4, we could say 0, 3, and 3 for the last. Or however we get it, we could say the first.
Whatever you think is reasonable based on the evidence before you.
Yeah.
Can I make that?
Yes, sir.
I just want to respond to what Ms. Jernigan was saying a while ago. One thing she may not realize is Wimberley Water Supply supplies water to hundreds of customers outside the city limits.
Yeah, I know that.
Therefore, the city does not necessarily talk about a high-rise hotel, HED. For instance, on Ranch Road 12, heading this direction, we've already met with the engineers and the builders, and there's going to be a 52-room condominium complex built on Cypress Creek. So you can change that number up there in 2012 probably, and add 50-something units to
52
that.
more taps, right.
Every tap that is made is not necessarily inside the city limits, therefore does not have to go to planning and zoning and through city council.
And Gary, when someone makes, in your CCN makes an application You're required by law to provide them with water, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, we are.
TCEQ requires us to provide water to anyone inside our CCN. Now, if I don't have a main within a mile of there, if they want water there, they're required to pay for that line extension.
But you have
But
to
I
say,
have to say yes.
so, I mean, in theory, you could bust your permit, there will be a thing
That's
to do about it.
exact-
I mean,
that's
it's not-
exactly
You
right.
can't manage your way out of growth. I mean, if we're
That's-
not trying to encourage growth, I just want, what I'm trying to do here, people, is avoid, we're putting ourselves against the district. Two Hayes County entities, one having to find another one for doing their job. That's all I want to do here, is give enough of a cushion that there won't be, we're not having to come back and say, we're sorry, we're 10 acre feet over, what are we going to do? So.
Quick question, it's kind of an administrative question on two parts. One is on the connections. Just because it says connection, that does not necessarily mean it's a residential connection. I think people need to realize that these taps, you know, it may be
Or
better.
Washington or something else.
Right, it may be better to show it in terms of person equivalents or something along those lines as opposed to just taps. I don't mean to be condescending about it, I just mean that just because it says tap doesn't mean that it might not be, 30 people equivalent or for a commercial establishment. And one other point I'd like to make, if I could ask Mr. Ellis to read the section he just read again from the water code, if you don't mind.
Well, I do, just once, let's just.
Okay, well, then the point is that provision of the water code, I believe, says the district has no choice but to issue permits up to that amount. It doesn't really address,
Okay, it does.
right, it doesn't address the issue about going beyond that. That's the only comment I wanted to make about that. So it really is a restriction on what the limit, on what the district cannot do, I think. And it says the district cannot hold back water in that issue if people request it. That's all.
Could I provide one comment?
Yes, sir.
This belief that because they have a duty, the duty is transferred to you all. And in other words, because they have a duty to deliver water, that doesn't make it incumbent for the water to be available from the aquifer. And so ultimately, people there's going to potentially, well, not with this board, but theoretically there might be a cap on the aquifer at some point. And then if people want to grow, they have to find it, unless it's an exempt use, they're going to have to get it elsewhere. I mean, Greg Ellis worked for a district that told everybody down at the Gulf Coast, they gave them like 10 years and said, you have to get off your water well in 10 years, the whole area.
Well, they had to reduce their pumping by 80 or 90% over that 10-year period. And they had to go find alternative water supplies. And we're still working on that through the rest of the
So I'm not saying that to threaten, I'm just saying that and I understand that you don't want to, you're not being
friendly. In town, there's no surface water close, and we don't want to build a 1 million square foot rainwater collection shed.
But the sooner there's limits, the more leverage to bring in a pipe.
Yes, sir.
Well, I do want to say to Tom and to Women Water Supply, you all have been the exemplary of the big water supply companies in terms of per capita water use, in terms of your managing your line loss. You guys have been exemplary, and I want to commend you on that. I think the way you all are managing is the way we hope most of the other companies will manage it. And to go from 207 gallons per capita, and yeah, there is the commercial mixed in there too, which, in my opinion, we should be breaking that out and developing allocation strategies for both commercial and residential that are equitable across every permit. Where we are now, we just voted on this permit that's 330 some gallons, and this one's 145. We're not equitable in how we're issuing those. So that's a big issue. The data that Mark just went through, showing that you all were at 80% of your permit in 2010, and about a 1% growth over, the last 7 years. It's hard to justify 11% when you see the history of that and see we're still at 80%. And then back to the original question of the MAG and our current management number, again, this is more deficit spending. It's deficit pumping that we're promoting, and we're not doing it in an equitable way for all permittees. And I think that is a big problem and could potentially become a legal problem for us if we're using one formula for one permittee and another formula for somebody else, and it's not equitable across the board. So, you know, I just think I can't really vote for this until we've finished the MAG, until we've developed an allocation scheme that is fair and equitable to all permittees. And that's nothing personally against you or Wimberley Water Supply. I think, as I said, you guys have done a great job as stewards of that water. But this is a bigger policy issue, which I think until that MAG is decided and finalized, if the first numbers come out, we've got 330 acre feet as a MAG. That means we're going to have to reduce pumping by 80 to 90% in our permittees over the next many years. So, I think we have such a variation in these estimates that to issue permits at this time is just it's not prudent, it's not responsible, and it's nothing against you all. It's just, this is not the right time for us to do this until we've decided these
Can
other
I ask you a
issues.
question?
Yes, sir.
What are the repercussions or the penalties if I exceed my allocation 2011? If I pump 700 acre feet as opposed to 695, what are my penalties?
So how about your money for us?
I think that comes to the board, and whether the board decides to issue a notice of violation on that. There are many permits out there and many people who are pumping that have not been sent notice of violations. There are notice of violations that have not been followed through. And a lot of that is just the structure of the district, its inability to follow through on litigation that it's been involved in. So I think that's more of a statement against our limitations financially to carry out our mandate. But I don't know the answer to that.
Has anyone exceeded it and been fined?
That's a good question. Look
That's-
back.
that's what
You've
I
got
wanna know, 'cause
10 years of history.
Yeah.
Look back in the 10 years of history that this group has existed, and how many fines have been levied.
I would say,
I imagine I've got more change in my pocket.
If there's no penalty or no fine,
Then you're okay.
as there has been, I don't even need an increase. I'll sit at 695 till I retire from Liberty Water Supply if there are no repercussions.
My tariff says that I have to furnish anybody with requested by CCN water. Andrew Backett states that liability shifts from us to y'all. TCEQ is an 800-pound gorilla. We're going to follow the rules of my tariff, which they approved, until they tell us we can't.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm wondering if Mr. Henley has misunderstood. My understanding of the law is that, yes, you are required to provide that water, but this district is not required to fulfill all of your requirements. They are required to manage what is available, and then if you're short, it is up to you to find it elsewhere. That's, I believe, the law.
Right.
Whether we like it or not, but that's the law.
We have been searching for water, surface water, outside source. I know personally for the last 12 years that I've been associated with the company, we haven't found it yet. The only source we have is groundwater. Now, the day that surface water comes to Wimberley, we will tie on, and we will do everything we can to get off of groundwater. But until that day, you're the only option we got.
Mr. Haley, has there been any projects presented to you all in your CCN that would justify, other than the one that you mentioned, which is the Wood Creek project? Are there any other projects that have been presented to you all?
Other than the rumors that HEB is coming or some big chain,
Dripping on HEB
and
is
then our
fine.
ETJ, we're growing. One of these days we'll be large enough to support this kind of business. And we're just trying to be ready for that day, and we don't want to be in violation. We're trying to plan ahead.
Nothing formal has been presented.
Other than other than that one.
That's been finalized, my understanding, I believe it's 52 condominiums. They started talking about this about 5 years ago when it first brought it to my attention. And about once or twice a year, somebody else comes in with some more information. And I believe it's been downsized from 70-something units to 52, if I'm not mistaken. But that is outside the city limits, as I was talking about a while ago. However, it is, we do furnish water. And it's not that far out of town. The city limits just don't extend that far out of town. That's how the boundaries were drawn up. But that is 52 condominiums that are going on.
And you gotta remember, we have 3 schools in our system that are growing 10 to 12% per year. And every kid in our school is gonna be drinking water.
I'd like to make a motion, considering we all just spoke about, discussed, a 3-year permit for 750 acre feet. I think that's a little bit of a compromise. I think you really, like everyone said here earlier, you really have a handle on your waste issues, your infrastructure issues, that sort of thing. So I'd like to make a motion for a 3-year permit at 750 acre feet.
I'll second it. But I want to say, just for the record, we see what they requested, so if I'm still on this board, which some people may not want me here in 3 years, if they busted, I'm gonna have a hard time finding anybody, because they told us what they want. You know, it's the letter, but if we can make an agreement, I'll second something.
Well, I think they could come back after 2 years.
I would be, I'd be interested in if we can change how they get the water. To me, 2011 should stay at $6.95. 2012 go to $7.20, and then 2013 go to the $7.50. That'd be an issue with anybody?
As long as I don't get fined if I go over 2011.
No.
I think history dictates whether we're gonna be fined or not, and we'll all end up in the courthouse on that one.
I mean, I think that still gives you some planning. I don't think 2011.
I'm sorry?
If you're close, come file an amendment.
Yeah.
Don't just go over, come file an
No,
amendment.
it won't happen overnight, and we will do that.
But I just, they added, since they were at 99.7 in 2006, they added 50 meters since then.
Right, oh, they do great, they do great.
What I'm saying though is, I don't see, they could bust this thing any year. If we're gonna set 750 right now, for the next 3 years, it's not.
Just across the board?
It's across the board. I don't need to step in things. This last permit was good for 10 years. I think we can get 10 years out of this next one. I mean.
I'll go back to what Lenny said, well, if we don't need it, we're not going to.
That's true.
That's the
Y'all
bottom line.
have a
That's true.
swing with water.
That's true.
It's not in the blood, it's relevant, our history shows that.
He's right, you're right. I mean, you're not gonna put a big plan in tomorrow to sell water off, for trucks and stuff, like they do here in Dripping.
We're actually furnishing water to the golf course.
I mean, if they had.
No, it will wrong.
These numbers are
You were so close.
Do you need anything to say about it?
No, I just, can I go over 1 year, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sure we're going to expand, but I think a year-to-year permit is, you can plan for a year-to-year permit. We all have to plan for businesses, but it can be on a year-to-year basis.
And I just want to go on record too, that since we don't have our water budget and MAG completed, I don't think it's right for us to be just picking and choosing permits, and issuing those without understanding of the full water budget. And I just think we should be waiting until the MAG is complete before we do this. So I just want the record to reflect that, and hopefully that issue can be resolved here, in the next few weeks if we can get this workshop
Yeah,
together.
because what I'm saying for the MAG, we probably have about 5,000 acre feet available above and beyond, maybe 3,000 to 5,000, depending on which number you go with. The number you gave the water government board is the number the Texas Water Board will come up with. So this thing will be clean water, and we can get rid of that deficit pumping there.
Well, I just still think that's a fallacy.
I think you're going to be fallacy, so, we can argue all day long with that.
Well, look at the science.
Yeah, I have.
I know.
The motion,
The motion
it's 3-year, 350 acre feet, but then you brought up some.
750. 750, the motion was 750, and
Across the
my
board,
idea
3 years.
didn't have any legs
So it's 750 for 3 years.
for 3 years.
3 years.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes. It is now closed.
Thank you.
I think I'm gonna take a quick break.
No, it's not, it's a matter of sharing.
We're gonna take it. You wanna do it? Okay, wait, I'm gonna take a quick meeting, sorry.
Video. We didn't take it back. It's not taking it back.
Do a Zoom.
Okay, this is all of us.
All right, you ready?
Somebody takes all of us, then they all.
Okay.
I'll stay here, I'll